Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Brent Williams. I'm from Kennesaw State University. We jokingly like to say it's the largest university you've never heard of. We have about 34,000 students on the northwest side of Atlanta, and you've never heard of us because we don't have a football team. But that's actually changing next year. We will have a football team, and so we invite you all to come and visit and see our new stadium and all that good stuff. So that will be not far off. I'm the director of what we call the iTeach Center at Kennesaw State. And the iTeach Center is part of the College of Ed, and we have a team of people who go out and work with local school systems around Metro Atlanta and around the state of Georgia, helping them get technology into the classroom. And that can be anything from tablets to Wi-Fi to Windows to whatever. So it's a great thing that we've been doing since about 1995 from Kennesaw State. And we have just a great team of people who really know technology and know how to teach with technology. And again, we help the Metro Atlanta school systems kind of ramp that up. Before I get too much farther, I want you to know that I also have the blog speakwisdom.com. And if you'd like a copy of these slides, if you go to speakwisdom.com, there's a presentations link up at the top, and you can click that and get a short set of Windows 8.1 slides, which is what this is. But I also teach a 3-hour workshop on Windows 8.1, and those slides are also there, and you're welcome to get those. And there are a lot of links in the slide decks, so you may in fact really want them. So speakwisdom.com will get you there. How about that? Anyway, so our objective is to help you with Windows 8.1. A comment I hear a lot, in fact I heard it this morning, is I hate Windows 8.1, or I hate Windows 8 in general, and I can't find anything and I can't make it work and so forth. And so I'm hoping by the time we get done with our short hour together here that you're going to walk out of here feeling a lot better about Windows 8.1. We can make it pretty friendly, and so we'll do that here as we go along. So we'll talk about features, and we'll do a lot of hands-on, and talk about network and security, and just all the different things that make up Windows 8.1. Your questions are welcome, and we also have to talk about, if you will, the elephant in the room, and that is Windows 10. If you're not aware, Windows 9 is being skipped because the trade press says Microsoft wants to get as far away from Windows 8 as they can. How about that? And so they're going right to Windows 10. And you are able now to download previews of Windows 10, and some of you may want to do that, particularly if you're in a technical role, and start looking at 10. Now I'll show you some slides of Windows 10 as we kind of end today, just so you have an idea what's coming. I'm excited about 10. 8.1, 8 and 8.1 have been a struggle, I think, for everybody. But 10 looks really, really good. So we'll talk about that here as we go. So let me give you first, before I start doing a bunch of hands-on, let me do a little bit of quick background on Windows 8.1, just to kind of get everybody sort of on the same level playing field here, and then we'll go from there. You may or may not know there are basically 3 versions of Windows 8.1. There's a desktop version, which is used on laptops and so forth, of course. There's an RT version, which is available for the special tablet that Microsoft manufactured, and actually some others too, that was intended to compete with the iPad. Now that has done very poorly in the marketplace, and there's some rumor that the RT version will disappear when we get to Windows 10. Who knows? That's all rumor right now. But there's that separate version, and it only runs store applications. It doesn't run desktop applications. We'll talk more about that. There's also, of course, the phone version. If anything that you could say about Windows 8.1 that's really nice, it is that it does have a sort of a consistent look across all 3 platforms, and that gets better as we move to Windows 10. So that's pretty good. Anybody here use a Windows phone? Windows phone? Do you like your Windows phone? That's what I hear from everybody. As much as we dislike 8 and 8.1 sometimes, you ask anybody who has a Windows phone, and they'll tell you, man, this thing is awesome. So that's kind of interesting to hear, isn't it? How about that? Anyway, so the user interface in 8.1, you may know, can be confusing. Not only do you have the desktop side to deal with, now you also have this tile thing to deal with, and anybody who's an active user of Windows at all will have to be going back and forth between the two, and that can be a bit of a struggle, particularly for newer users or less sophisticated users of Windows. And so again, we'll talk about that as we go. You might want to know too, just to be clear, that there are now 2 different kinds of applications. There are the desktop applications, which you're very familiar with, like Office and Photoshop and so forth, and a whole set of applications that run just in the tile environment that are called Metro or modern applications. Typically, things like Evernote and TV Guide and that sort of thing that run in that tile environment. So we have that to deal with, of course, in 8.1. Now I want to give you, again, just a quick sort of Microsoft sales brochure on why you should do 8.1. And oh yes, I will tell you why you shouldn't too. That's coming, all right? So here's the sales brochure. One, Microsoft would say it's a simplified user interface. Well, anybody agree with that? No. Okay, okay, that's fine. That's the sales brochure. It's easy to install and upgrade. Anybody done an install? Yeah, that's true. Pop in a DVD, answer a couple questions, boom, it installs, and away you go. So it's actually very easy to install. Starts faster than Windows 7. Absolutely true. I would say that once you have 8.1 installed and updated and so forth, it starts in probably half the time of Windows 7. So it is a much faster startup on the IE. New version of Internet Explorer, who cares, right? So whatever. There are the live tiles, that is the tiled applications that we'll take a quick look at, of course. The Windows Store I like a lot, so if you need to get an application of some kind, like Apple, you can go to the Microsoft Store, browse and search for different applications. Some free, some not free. Get what you want, install it, away you go. I've got up here SkyDrive integration. You know now that's OneDrive, right? So OneDrive is tightly integrated into Windows 8, 8.1. So great, that's all good stuff from Microsoft, and it's true. You might also want to know that in Windows 8.1, they carried forward the live CD DVD format. That was actually introduced back in Vista. And the way that plays is you pop in a blank disk, and Windows assumes that you want to use that disk like a flash key. And so you can write a single file onto a CD or DVD, pop the disk out, pop it back in, write another one on there, stick it on the shelf, a couple weeks later, stick it back in, put 2 or 3 more on. And so you really can use it like a flash key. And it works between any of the higher Windows versions, Vista on up. It is not a standard format disk, so you can't pop it in a Mac or in a DVD player or something like that and have it work. But it's pretty handy for people who are on the higher levels of Windows. So that's still there. You can still also produce standard format CDs and DVDs. That's a second choice they give you, but that format is there. File history replaces backup, and file history really is backup. It's, basically you pick a device you want to be backing up to, and Windows will then automatically copy to that backup location anything that you change, any document, PowerPoint, whatever, automatically gets backed up to that location. Search in Windows 8.1 is highly updated, and so you can just start typing things you may know in Windows 8.1, and it starts searching for you and gives you a nice little list on the right side. We'll look at that real quick. So I like Search a lot. It does a good job. Speech recognition. How many of you have used speech recognition in Windows? Anybody here? Listen, I've been doing Windows stuff for a long, long time, and speech recognition has built into Windows since Vista. And most people don't know that. The speech recognition in Windows 8.1 is so good, you can literally unplug your keyboard and mouse and use Windows entirely by voice. That is to surf the net, edit documents, whatever you want to do. And it's important to know that, if for nothing else, then for people with disabilities or who have trouble with a mouse or keyboard, there is great speech recognition built into Windows. And I'll show you where that is. I used it, years ago I did my doctorate dissertation back in the beta days of Vista, and I did my dissertation for my PhD entirely by voice using the speech recognition in Windows. How about that? You don't need Dragon or some third-party product. Certainly there's heightened security. They continue to ramp up security on Windows. I teach hacking back at KSU, and it's gotten harder and harder and harder to hack Windows. There's ways to hack websites, yes, but certainly hacking Windows per se is much, much harder now. Certainly touch input devices are supported, so if you have a touch tablet or touch laptop, that's certainly supported. And an important thing, Windows Defender is included and on in Windows 8.1. Windows Defender is antivirus, anti-spyware. It's very good, it's free, and it's just there. And so be aware of that. Now, some of you might recall from Windows 7 that there's Microsoft Security Essentials. Security Essentials is a free antivirus, anti-spyware that you can download from Microsoft for 7. Basically, this is it updated and renamed to Defender. And again, it's just in there and on by default. School systems that want to run their own different virus protection or antivirus, we'll need to turn it off, but it's there and it does a good job. So again, that's the sales brochure, kind of from Microsoft, a little bit of it anyway. And so there are some good things about 8.1, no question. But there's also some things that, you know, we need to be frank about, and that is there's some reasons not to go to Windows 8.1. Certainly the confusing interface. Anytime I'm a tech director, so anytime I want to move a bunch of people from one operating system to another, I expect there to be an improvement in productivity, you know? And so a good question for going from 7 to 8.1 is, will I improve the productivity of my people by doing that? And the answer is, well, up to you, but I'd say probably not, okay? Probably not. So you need to consider that. You know, the Metro apps are an issue. If you're a user of an iPad, let's just pick on that for a second, you know that there's 8 zillion education apps for iPads, right? Go to a Windows 8.1 environment, you know, with the tiles and so forth, and start looking for education apps, and you won't find many. You'll find the big stuff, you know, Evernote and TV Guide and all that, but it's when you start looking for the esoteric stuff that you start running into a little bit of an issue with apps in Windows 8.1 for the tile environment. Again, let's be clear. But, okay, that's there. The learning curve is an issue. Let me say that I've been involved with education since about 1995. I came out of private industry to help start a school in Georgia. I know the way education works when it comes to something new like Windows 8.1. The tech people come in and install it for the teacher or the classroom. They walk away and, okay, teacher, have a blast, right? You cannot do that with Windows 8.1. If you don't train your people about how to use Windows 8.1, they will be very unhappy and you'll have a disaster on your hands. At least you got to bring teachers or administrators or whoever into a room and for 2 or 3 hours show them how they operate in 8.1 versus Windows 7, because it is very different, okay? And so help them out. So is there a compelling reason to switch to 8.1? We could certainly argue this. My current position, our advice we're giving to school systems around Metro Atlanta is, if you're on Windows 7 and your users are happy with it, I would sit tight for right now. Just sit tight till Windows 10 comes out, which will be late summer, early fall. Once we have Windows 10 out, you'll see they'll be a lot happier. If you have devices that you just have to put Windows 8.1 on, fine. I'm going to show you how to make it pretty easy to work with. But you know, you may have touch devices or whatever that come in that you just can't put Windows 7 on. I mean, Windows 7 is not a good touch OS. So you need 8.1 on those devices, and so you go with it, okay? So our position is install 8.1 where you sort of have to, but otherwise sit tight with 7 and wait for 10 to come along. And if you disagree with that, that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's just sort of where we are right now, okay? So again, the end user training certainly is an issue. Application availability, of course, is an issue, as I've mentioned, and just be aware, okay? Okay, a little bit more, and then we'll get hands-on here. Just for what it's worth, installing 8.1 comes on a DVD, you pop it in a machine, and it takes about 30 minutes to install. Boom, you're ready to go, and off you go. Very simple. For those who are, you know, managing environments in your school or school district, certainly you can get the shrink-wrap version of 8.1, as we call it. So you go to a computer store or buy a copy, and that's usable on one machine. And there's also, of course, the volume licenses, which most school districts have, where you basically use one key, in effect, to install all your machines. And that still works basically like it did in 7. There's some minor changes, but about the same. Now, let me switch to some hands-on here. I want to first talk about the Metro or modern interface. There's a little background for you. When Windows 8 was in its beta form, we used to refer to the tile interface as the Metro interface. And along the way somewhere, Microsoft decided, well, we don't really like that, so we're going to start calling it the modern interface. And so that's, of course, what it is now called. Now, it's also important to know that that interface is also labeled Start. Look in the upper left. When we start talking to users, we have to get real clear about the Start button versus the Start screen, you know, because now kind of we got this confusing. You can't just talk about Start anymore. There's a Start screen, which is the modern or Metro interface. By the way, any computer geek who's been around this stuff for a while still calls this the Metro interface. I do, okay? So just be aware you'll hear that. but it's labeled Start. And there is also, again, a Start button. If I move my mouse pointer way down to the bottom, and I know it'll be hard to see way back there, but there is now a Start button back in the lower left. And it doesn't look like the Start orb that you see in 7, but it's there, okay? And what it does, we'll get to here in just a moment. But this is, again, the Start screen, Metro screen, Modern screen, whatever you want to call it. There it is, and we see it a lot, of course, as we work with Windows 8.1. So let me get back to my slides here for a moment. So now, if you get nothing else out of this presentation, if you're an 8.1 user or are implementing 8.1, this is the slide you want to pay attention to. In 8.1, they made some changes to fix the mess they made with Windows 8 in terms of the user interface. They added some things that if you and I turn it on, tweak it a little bit, we can make Windows 8.1 look a whole lot more like Windows 7 and make it much more palatable to end users. And this is the game we play. When we go out and train schools and school systems and so forth on 8.1, we show them this, and we show teachers this, and by the time we're done with this little bit here, they're like, oh, we can do this. 8.1's going to be okay. You know, they come in panicked, and they leave going, it's not going to be so bad. So, well, what's this about? Well, again, I'm going to demo this up here. I'll talk about it as I do it, because some of you in the back, they're going to have a hard time seeing this, but I'm going to go to the desktop on my Windows 8.1 machine here. Now, my Windows 8.1 environment has this little owl thing on it for the wallpaper, but down at the bottom is my taskbar, just like in Windows 7. And I'm going to right-click the taskbar. And when I go to the right-click, I can go to Properties. You've done that probably a million times. And the thing here that you want to pay attention to is they've added a new tab, the Navigation tab. It's a new tab. The Navigation tab, I know, again, you can't read it way back there, but so let me tell you what's here. Up at the top is an area that talks about corner navigation. In Windows 8.1, the default is if I move my mouse pointer to the upper right, I get the charms. The charms are those little icons that show up on the right side. I'm sure some of you have seen. I'll do it here in a minute if you have not. There's nothing charming about them. And in fact, in Windows 10, they go away. Okay, how about that? So that's a good thing. So that's checked by default. That's the norm. Right below that, and this again has nothing to do with making it easier yet. This is just on the screen. Corner navigation. When I click the upper left corner, show me what I'm running. That is, show me all the different things I'm running on my machine, and I can then, kind of pull down a little bit and pick the thing I want to bring up to full screen. So it's sort of the app selection thing of things I'm running. Again, we don't really care about all that. The last one here, replace command prompt with PowerShell. You know, if you're a real advanced user and you want to do some stuff with PowerShell, you can check that box. Anyway, that's there. Okay, no big deal. What we care about is below that. Start screen. That's what it says there, start screen. It says, when I sign in or close all apps on a screen, go to desktop instead of start. The first thing that users hate about Windows 8 and 8.1 is when they boot up or log in, the default is they go to the tiles, right? And so they go, oh, geez, what do I do here, you know? I mean, it's just confusing and intimidating and all that for end users. So if you check this box, you're saying, look, if I boot up my PC or I log in, I want to go to the desktop instead. Take me to the desktop because that looks a lot more like Windows 7, you know, taskbar and all the rest. Yeah, there's a question. Go ahead.
So are you K-12?
We are, I'm higher ed, but we teach K-12. That's what we do.
So I have a lot of kindergarten, first, second, lower grade teachers. They love Symbaloo. Don't you find the start screen similar to Symbaloo?
I don't know Symbaloo. I just don't know.
So it's just a fast way to get where you want.
Yeah.
So rather than kids having to type a URL in, you can pin that internet
Right.
app to the desktop.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes a fast way for the kids to get where they want to go.
Great. Okay, that's fine. I will say that, look, once you get used to the tiles, they're okay. The problem is taking Windows 7 people from a desktop environment to the tiles. It's kind of confusing and intimidating. So here's a way they can log in and they're at the desktop. Good starting point, okay? So hang with me here, all right? Okay, the next checkbox says, show my desktop background on start. Let me show you something. If I go to the desktop on my laptop here, bear with me again, I have to do a little Alt-Tab thing here because I've got PowerPoint running. Here's my desktop. Again, I got that owl, you know, wallpaper and so forth. So as a user, if I go down and click on the Start button, I go to the tiles. Here's the tiles. Now notice the wallpaper is different. And, you know, in fact, I could make it dramatically different, but you know, it might be green or yellow or whatever. So it's obviously different to the user. You know, I've changed the world I'm in when I hit start on the desktop side. So how about if we go back, again, bear with me while I get rid of PowerPoint here. I'm going to go back and check that box that says show my desktop background on start, and I'm going to go ahead and apply this. So again, let me take you to my desktop. Okay, so oops, well, I'll get that out of the way just so you can see better. How about that? So there's my desktop. Oop, not quite, because I've still got PowerPoint in the way. There we go. There's the desktop. Now look what happens when I hit start. I get my tiles, but they're laid on top of the desktop wallpaper, right? So to an end user, you got a little optical illusion going on here that they think they're still in the same environment with now tiles appearing, but at least the wallpaper is the same. So they think, well, maybe I'm still in some variation of the desktop. This is the game we play with end users and have had great success with it. We teach them that, look, if you're on the desktop, and I'll go back there just to be clear here. Oops, get PowerPoint out of the way again. There we go. Here's my desktop. And you click on Start. You know, in Windows 7, when you click Start, you get this list of all your applications and so forth that comes up, right? So we just tell them, look, don't panic in 8.1. You hit Start, you're going to get, instead of a list, you're going to get all your applications broken out now as little tiles. This is the Start menu. In fact, it's even labeled Start, right? And so we spend some time working with them on the now Start menu, and we'll do that here in just a second. But they can pick whatever they want to run here, of course, click on it, and off it goes and runs, right? So all of a sudden, oh, okay, so 8.1 is not so horrible as I've heard, right? You know, I can actually do this. And it's just a great change. It's simple, but it definitely helps the end user. So we do this thing where we right-click the taskbar, we go to Properties, Navigation, you know, make sure a couple check boxes are set there, and then we have this sort of environment that the user is able to go to, making sure the desktop background is the same and so forth. And the Start button, of course, now takes them to the tiles, as you just saw as I did it up here. Let me just mention, for what it's worth, real quick, I'll go back to my desktop, and I'm going to right-click the taskbar again, go to Properties, Navigation. So those are the two main ones. Now, there's another one here. It says Show Start on the display I'm using when I press the Windows logo key or hit the Start button. Show Start on the display I'm using. What is that about? Anybody here run two displays on a computer, dual monitor? This helps you out a lot. I run dual monitor everywhere. In fact, I recommend, you know, for your desktop, wherever you work, you should have two displays. And so all this is saying is, look, wherever my mouse pointer is, if I hit the Windows key or if I go down to Start on that screen, I get the tiles on that screen. So I can literally have the desktop on one side and the tiles on the other. Move the mouse pointer over to the other side, hit Start or hit the Windows key, and I get the tiles there, and the desktop is on the other side. Get the idea? So it's kind of handy. I mean, I like that. It's a good feature. By the way, trivia question. How many displays can you connect to one Windows PC? Anybody know? How many displays? Come on. 10, believe it or not. And I want that, right? But I don't have it. It's really cool. Anyway, so, okay. Down below that, one more, again, not important. Show the apps view automatically when I go to Start. Now, this is something you don't want to do. Let me tell you what they're doing here. Here's the Start screen, okay? On the Start screen, if I take my mouse pointer down near the bottom left, and I'll do that on mine here, here we go, a little arrow shows up. It's hard to see. It's right down here. There's a little arrow. I'm going to click on that arrow, and I go to a view of all the applications I have installed on this PC. Notice it's labeled Apps up at the top. And so I can scroll through here, you know, and I can see on this laptop I got 8 zillion applications installed, which, by the way, will not be unusual on a production PC. And so the question is, would I want my users, when they hit Start, to come to this? I don't think so, you know. Again, this is a pool of everything, whereas the Start screen is, hey, I've picked the tiles I want the user to see, and they see a subset, right? So this is the more important, of course, for them to see. So let me go back to the desktop one more time here. Here we go. Oh yeah, we're headed right there. Yeah, so again, I would not check that box unless you want really confused users, all right? So anyway, and there's also another checkbox that has to deal with sorting that list that you saw. But anyway, the main two, start screen, when I sign in, show me the desktop, and make my desktop background the same on start. And, again, play a little psychological game with the users, make sure they understand that, look, when you click start, you're just getting a different look to the start menu. And they'll go, okay, cool. They really will. It works. Okay, so let's go for a little more. I want to show you a little bit of the detail now of the start screen and the tiles and so forth. And let's just say right up front that the tile interface, a teacher or you or whoever can rearrange that tile interface any way they want to do it. I mean, we'll do it, but I can move tiles, I can do groups of tiles and all kinds of stuff, and we'll get into that, of course, here in a moment. And I just want to point out again on this slide that my pool of available tiles or icons is all apps, that all apps thing. We'll look at that here in just a second, okay? So let me go back to Metro, and I'm going to sit down, pardon to do this, but it's just easier for what I'm about to do with this laptop up here. So here's the Metro interface. First thing to know is anybody can point at a tile, like here's alarms, click and drag a tile and put it anywhere you want it to be on the start screen. Just click and drag it. Very, very simple, right? And notice, if you will, that it's a little hard to see with my wallpaper. In fact, maybe I should change my wallpaper to make it clearer. But there's a sort of a break between some of the groups of my tiles. There's a little break there. So each of these collections of tiles is a group of tiles. And I can see it more clearly if you look at the extreme lower right, if you're looking on a machine or just whatever, there is a minus sign down there. Or you'll see this on a slide, Control minus will let you zoom out. I'm going to do that right now. And I can now see all my tiles. They're on my start screen. And I can see the groupings. It's clear to see the groupings. And you can see the names that I've given to certain groups or whatever. So fine. So how do I do groups? And I'll come back right back to this. Here I'm back looking at my tiles. If you grab a tile and you drag it right in between two groups, and let me see if I can do this just right. Yeah, there we go. You'll see a gray bar appear. Can y'all see that? Okay, that's the indication you're about to create a new group. So I just drop the tile, and notice now there's a separation between the tiles on either side. So this calculator thing I just dropped there has started a new group. And I can click and drag any icons I want and drop them, or tiles, and drop them right in there to add more stuff to this group. Right? Now, what if I want to name my groups? You've seen me do that here. If you just get slightly above the tiles and right-click, you'll see Name Groups. Okay, get slightly above. Yes, question? Yeah, is that annoying to you? Okay, no problem. I can certainly do that. Oops, if I can get back to the right screen. There we go. I'm going to right-click, go to Personalize. How about that? And let's see, let's go to something a little plainer. How about that? Maybe this would be better. See if that works for you. Okay, so here's my desktop now, a little better. And here's Start. Easier to see now? Yeah, okay. By the way, notice again, that wallpaper is set to carry forward to the start screen. It does help. Anyway, so again, any group that you've got, you can right-click and name a group. And all you got to do is type in the little gray bar that appears. Anything you want to put in there is fine. And by the way, I can either now just click off somewhere and I'm done, or I can get above another group and click and add a name or change a name or whatever I want to do. But once I'm done naming, I can just click somewhere and okay, it's got it. It understands what I'm doing there. I've got my groups named. Now, let me show you, again, related to groups. If I, again, go to the extreme lower right, there's a minus sign down there, or again, you can do Control minus. Either works fine. I can zoom out. I see my groupings of tiles. And now maybe I want to change how they're organized, right? Because like, this research group I've got over here, maybe I want it at the front. Well, now I can just click and grab the whole group, bring it up to the front or wherever I want it to be, and drop it. I've now rearranged the tiles. Get the idea? So look, Microsoft has made manipulating the tiles, arranging the tiles and so forth on the start screen, really easy now. It used to be hard in 8. If any of you worked with 8, it wasn't very, very user-friendly. But in 8.1, they really cleaned it up. So again, real quick, you can click and drag a tile anywhere you want it. That's fine. Click and drag a tile and get it kind of between two groups, and you can start a new group if you want to do that. You can right-click above the groups and name them if you want to do that. If you want to organize how the groups are laid out, again, the minus sign in the lower right or control minus, either one zooms you out, and you can drag around and do what you want to do with those. Cool? Yeah, fire away. Very good, good. He's asking about the size of the tiles. If you point at any tile and right-click on it, you'll get this little submenu that pops up. And by the way, if by chance this menu on your machine comes up down at the bottom of the screen, you don't have the current Windows updates to Windows 8.1, because that's what it used to do. Now it comes up as a little block up there right next to the tile. And so up there is unpin from start. So if I don't want this Adobe Reader that I'm on right now, if I don't want it on my start screen anymore, I can just unpin it. It doesn't deinstall it. It just takes it back to my all apps list where I could repin it if I want to. I could pin it to the taskbar. If you always want Adobe Reader on your taskbar, I could pin it to the taskbar. I could uninstall, won't do that, but I could, okay? And then what he asked about is, well, what about the size of the tile? Depending on the tile you're right-clicking on, your size choices will be small, medium, and large. This one just happens to allow small and medium, so I'll just pick small for a moment, and so now my Adobe Reader tile is very tiny, right? And I can go back to that, right-click again, resize, and take it back to medium, which is large as it will get. If you can see, how about, here we go, iHeartRadio here, pretty large tile. I can right-click it, resize, and I've got small, medium, wide, and large here, so I'll do whatever. So, depending again on the tile, you got some flexibility in how large you make it. Also, some of the tiles, let me find one here, some of the tiles are live. See this one with the sports picture on it? This is one of the big things Microsoft has touted about the whole tile environment, is that if a vendor wants to, they can write their application so that the tile on the start screen updates periodically with new information, whether it's weather, sports, news, whatever it might be. And if I decide for this sports tile, I really don't want it to be live. I can right-click any tile, and if there's the possibility of manipulating live or not, I can, down at the bottom, turn live tile off, or if it's off, and I'll turn it off, so there's sports now off. If I right-click that sports tile again, I can go back and turn live tile back on, and it takes a few seconds, but now I start to get updates again. So now, be clear, not every tile can be live. I would imagine the Adobe Reader, in fact, we saw that. It has no ability to be live, So it'll be just certain tiles that the vendor of the software, wrote the code to be able to do that live tile thing on start. You can turn that on or off as makes sense. Good question. That's very good. Now, something else to mention about the live tiles, they do present a tiny bit of load to your network. You can imagine that on an average user's PC, they might have 5 or 8 tiles that are live, and periodically, every 10 minutes or every 30 minutes, depending on what the app does, it'll go out and get some kind of update. The updates tend to be very tiny, very tiny. So there is a little load there, but it's not a major concern. For those of you who are geeky enough that maybe you have something to do with group policy in your world, you can do group policy to turn live tiles off for everybody if that's something you want to do. So just be aware of that. Okay? All right, let me go back to the slides here for a moment. And so we looked at some of that stuff about, naming groups and reorganizing and rearranging and so forth. And certainly you can get the slide deck if you want to come back and review some of that. Managing tiles, we've talked about here just a moment ago, right-clicking a tile. And I've got here for options at the bottom. But again, if you've done a current Windows update, now your options will appear right next to the tiles. By the way, I'm working right now with a mouse and keyboard on this laptop. This is a touchscreen laptop, but just to be clear, if I were working in touch mode, which I can, what is a left click on a touch device? Just touch, right? You know, just touch something and that's a left click. How do I do a right click on a touch device? Touch and hold. Okay, touch and hold for a couple seconds, and you've done a right click, and whatever the right click does, that'll happen. So, so be aware. Now, I want to just review for a second that the bottom right corner minus sign is how we zoom out to manipulate groups. That's here on the slide, just to remind you. Or you can do Control minus if you want. Control plus, by the way, zooms you, back in, but that's how you manipulate the collections of groups. Okay. Now, a little bit on apps. There are basically three kinds of apps that you can deal with in Windows 8.1. There are apps that are in the store, and I'll go back and show you the store here real quick in a second. There's something called side-loaded apps, and I just want you to hear this term because it's kind of a new term that we're hearing in the Windows world, so you have an idea what it is. And also desktop apps. Well, desktop apps you're most familiar with. Those are the ones like Office, Adobe Reader, Adobe Acrobat, Photoshop, whatever. Those are the things that you've been installing in Windows 7. Those are called desktop applications. The store applications, obviously, I go to the Microsoft Store, and I've got these little, Metro tile kind of apps that I can download, like Evernote and so forth. Those are pretty obvious. You get those. Sideloaded is a little weird in that what if, like my organization, Kennesaw State University, we want to write our own app. Okay, we're going to write our own app for the tile environment, right? And we want it on all of our machines. Two ways to go at that. Like Apple, if you write a tile app, you can submit it to Microsoft, and if Microsoft blesses it, they'll put it in the store. And you can charge for it or not. That there's a whole process for that. But the disadvantage there is if you put an app in the store, everybody has access to it, right? Well, maybe at KSU, we don't want that. We want our own app on our own machines. Well, there is a process, and I've got the link coming up here for those of you who are geeky enough to care. There's a way to write your own app and add it to the imaging process that you do for Windows 8.1 so that your own tiled app can appear for just your workstations. And those are called side-loaded apps, okay? Side-loaded apps. So it can be all users or any subset. It depends on how you do your group policy, how that gets distributed, but it can be a subset or everybody for your organization. The real point here is that you can do it. That's really what I want to get across, is you can do your own custom apps, okay? Now going down a little more, for the store apps, anybody who's going to go into the store and get an app from the Microsoft Store has to have a Microsoft account. Oh no, well, hey, it's the way it is. The good news is your Microsoft account name can be anything. For example, again, I have this domain speakwisdom.com. My email address is brent@speakwisdom.com. Guess what my Microsoft account name is? brent@speakwisdom.com. They don't care when you create a Microsoft account whether you use a Gmail address or whatever. They don't care. So that's good. So you can still continue to use whatever sort of address you prefer as your account name, but you got to have it. And again, if you're going to get stuff from the store, you've got to do that. And again, I'll show you where that is, so where you set it up. It's very easy, very, very easy. In your organization, you'll of course need to decide whether or not students are going to be allowed to have Microsoft accounts and whether or not you want them getting into the store and all that. Again, if you're a geeky type person and you know about group policy, there is group policy that can completely turn off store access for students if you just don't want them there, right? And also, I put at the bottom here, you can have up to 81 devices on a single Microsoft account. Huh? Well, that fits the early grade levels pretty well. First grade, second grade, third grade. Maybe what we want to have is one Microsoft account that everybody signs in with if we're going to let them get to the store, which you may not. Okay, I understand that. But at least that lets you have 20, 25 machines on the same Microsoft account in the same classroom for those early grades. Now, again, once they move on to third grade or sixth grade or whatever level you choose, they may have their own Microsoft account, but you can put multiple devices on one account if that makes sense for something you're doing. Got the idea? Yeah.
Well, we have our kids, even the younger kids, have their own login,
Uh-huh.
their own folder on our server, and all that stuff. So when they log in, I'm not the tech person.
Yep, understand.
So when they log in, they automatically
Correct. Yes.
So every student on every single machine has to download that app, no matter how old they are.
That's right.
We can't do that. So
Yeah, so let me clarify what she's talking about. She's talking about the domain login that a lot of your users do if you've got Microsoft servers. The good news is that a domain login and a Microsoft login can be tied together. That's also very easy for a tech person to do, so that when a user gets on an 8.1 machine, they log in with their Microsoft domain account, like they do now, and that also logs them into the Microsoft world with a Microsoft account, and they can then use the store. If you're on a standalone machine, like this laptop right now is just standalone, I don't have a domain login on here. This machine is not part of a domain. My login on here is my Microsoft account, because that, again, lets me get access to the store and do what I need to do. But yeah, the tech folks in your environment, and if anybody has a question about that, we can talk about it after, how you link the two accounts. It's very, very simple to do. Okay? Yeah? There are volume programs, and I'm not involved with those at KSU, so I don't know the details. I've heard from others that, I'm just telling you, that Microsoft's volume program is easier than Apple's, which wouldn't take much, by the way, okay? So there is a volume program, yes, okay? So, okay, just real quick about installing apps and such. You, of course, can go to the store, you browse, select whatever apps you want. Some are paid for, some are not, many are free. And so you pick, let's say, a free app, and it's just like in sort of the Apple world. You click it, it installs, it's added to your desktop, and away you go to your start menu. Now, I want to go to my start menu because I want to show you our start screen. Here's my start screen. Somewhere on my start screen here, I have the tile for the store, and this gives me a chance to editorialize for just a second. I'm not a huge fan of this tile thing. Here's why. I have a zillion tiles, actually not that many on this one, but on my real production machines. And so I want to find a particular tile to start something. Where the heck is the tile? I don't know. I mean, it could be way out there somewhere. So you'll find it much easier on the start screen that if you know the name of what you want to run, just start typing the name. Like I want to get to the store. I don't know where the tile is. So I'm going to type S-T-O. As I start to type the name of an application, oh, there's the tile on the right side. See it? There's the store tile. So I could click there, I go into the store, I can browse, pick something, whatever, install. Again, same sort of thing, like I want to run Microsoft Word. Where's my Word tile? I don't know, I moved it somewhere. So I can just type W-O-R and give it a couple seconds, and there's Word 2013, there's WordPress if I was looking for that, etc. So you'll find experienced users do that unless they have all the tiles they commonly use kind of piled up at the left side. Yeah? That you just start typing. In fact, that's the beauty of search in 8.1 is you just start typing. It's really well done. You don't have to click anything. If you want to, you can click. Notice in the upper right, there's a magnifying glass. If I want, I can click the magnifying glass, and that gives me a search dialog. The one advantage of doing that is, notice up here under search, it says search everywhere. Well, I can open up that drop list, and I've got a little bit of granularity adjustment I can do on the search. Not a lot, but I can search for files or web images or whatever. The norm is it goes after everything that has that name or piece of that name. But you can, using the search dialog here, change it a bit. Okay? And let me show you one more way to get to search, and we're about to talk about charms anyway. If I take my mouse pointer and go all the way to the right, I will see some charms pop out. That's those little icons you can kind of see on the right side there. As I like to say, there's nothing charming about them. They're kind of annoying. And Microsoft did enough user testing finally. They also believe that. So in 10, they're going away. But if I go back over there to the charms, the last one down is the settings charm. If I click on it, I get here where I've got my settings for 8.1, and we'll look at that here in just a second. But notice, again, back to the charms. The top one is a magnifying glass, so there's another way to get to search. Same thing, no different at all, but there it is. All right. And so let me, while I just happen to be here, just to save us a tiny bit of time, let me go ahead and I'm going to go to charms. So I'm going all the way to the right. I'm going to go down to settings. And I assume if you've used 8.1, you've been here at some point maybe. The settings at the bottom are sort of normal stuff you kind of need to do, like join a Wi-Fi network or adjust your volume or screen brightness and so forth. At the very, very bottom is change PC settings. I'll come right back to that, but just notice it for right now. Now look back up at the top, and up there where it says settings, right below it, it says start. So these things up at the very top are settings that have to do with, guess what? The start screen. The start screen, okay? Now I'm not going to get into those because they're not that important now, but I want you to know if you go right-click on any particular tile, you can also get to the settings for that tile. You know, if it's selected, see the check mark there? If I go back over to the charms, come on charms. Oh, let me get that out of the way. Well, I thought I had it. Oh, I'll just bring it up. Let me just bring it up. That'll be easier. Okay, so there's, oh, I don't want paint. That's not a Metro app. That's still a desktop app. Sorry, one second here. Oops. There we go. Let me get a Metro app. That'd be better. How about games? Sure, games. Here's games. Here's a Metro app, okay? If I now go over to the extreme right, and I get the charms, and I go down to settings, notice up here again at the top, settings, games. So this is how you get to the settings for a particular Metro app. Go ahead and bring it up, and then you've got settings that you can adjust whatever they might be for that particular app. Again, this is confusing to users. It's being deleted in Windows 10 because it's just not very user-friendly. But that's how it works. So again, I'll go back to Start. Let me pick another Metro app here if I got one quickly handy. Scattered them all over the place here. They're everywhere. Here we go, Music. I'm going to go into Music. So this is a Metro app. I'm going to go over to the right, come down to Settings. Oops, I hit Search, I'm sorry. Oops, come down to Settings. And so I get Settings for Music. And again, what I can do here may be different. But notice it's about that app, okay? Okay, so now let me go back, ignoring that. I'm going to go back to just plain old Start. Let's go back now to the charms, come way down to the bottom to Settings. And I know we don't have much time left, but I want you to see a couple things down at the very bottom in Change PC Settings, just real quick. A lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Control Panel from Windows 7, all the different things you can sort of set and do in Control Panel. Microsoft has been on a mission to kind of move all the Control Panel stuff to the Metro side, to the tile side. And that's what you're seeing here. If you look on the left side, there's PC and Devices, Accounts, OneDrive, and such. These would be Control Panels, except they've been sort of migrated to this Metro environment. Now, Microsoft is not done with that process. So you'll find if you're an advanced user at all, you're still going to have to go back to Control Panel to do some things. For example, speech recognition or whatever. But the good news is at the very bottom, what do they leave you down there? Control Panel. Ta-da! So here's the new Metro stuff and the old thing that you can still get to. And guess what? By the way, this hasn't gone over very well. So in 10, guess what they're going back to? Ta-da! Control Panel, all right? So just so you're aware for what that's worth. Anyway, just real quick, a couple things. PC and Devices here. If I go to PC and Devices, this is where I can add devices to the machine. So like if I want to add a printer or add a Bluetooth keyboard or something along those lines. Oops, let me get this guy back out of the way. I'm sorry, I got him sitting in the way here. Sorry, I hit it. PC settings, here we go. Go to PC and Devices. And again, under Devices, that's where you can go to add things. And there's a very obvious dialog to take you through that and go at it. I'm going to come way on down and notice along the way here, power and sleep and all that. So let me back up a step. For PC and Devices, I'm going to come down now to Update and Recovery. This is the equivalent of Windows Update that you're familiar with. So if I want to force my machine to update for some reason, some of you might need to, you can come here and do the check now, and it'll look for any updates and let you apply them and that sort of thing. But also related, down at the very bottom of this dialog is Recovery. I'm going to hit Recovery. I get here, I've got three choices. The first one says if your PC isn't running well, you can refresh it without losing any of your photos, music, video, blah, blah, blah. So again, I'm a user. and my Windows 8.1 machine's been working pretty well, but now it's kind of like sluggish and some certain things aren't working very well and all that. So I decided to come here and do this refresh my PC. You want to be very careful about this, because the thing they don't tell you here is, yes, you can run this. All your documents and PowerPoints and all the rest will be just fine. Your Metro apps will be just fine. But in the process of refreshing your machine, they remove your desktop applications and do not put them back on, okay? So your Office, you know, Adobe, whatever, gone. You get to reinstall it, all right? So be careful with that one, all right? Yeah, nice, huh? They don't have a little parentheses there within red. Oh, by the way, they should, okay? The next one's actually pretty useful. Remove everything and reinstall Windows. Okay, if I'm going to give this laptop to somebody else, and I want to make sure all my stuff is gone, that's the choice that'll get you there. Do the get started on remove everything, and it takes, maybe 15 to 30 minutes to do its thing. Then the machine is just back to plain Windows 8.1. All the apps are gone, everything. And so you can hand it off to somebody else. They can sign in with their account and begin to use that machine. And then the last one here, again, for those who are a little techie, in Windows 7, you might know that when you reboot Windows 7 and start hitting F8 on the keyboard, what happens? Anybody know? F8. Rebooting, you get the boot menu. Yeah, you get the boot up menu for 7. And that has on it things like safe mode with command prompt, last known good, all that stuff. That is gone in Windows 8.1. Does not exist. Instead, they've moved it to some different places. One of them right here, advanced startup. If I do this restart now, I get an option as it goes through its little process to get to the boot menu, where I can still do safe mode with command prompt and all the rest of that stuff, okay? So that's still there. Now, another way you can do it, if, again, you've got a problem with a Windows 8.1 machine and you've got an 8.1 DVD, you can boot from the 8.1 DVD and you'll get the same menu choice that lets you get to the boot menu for safe mode with command prompt, etc. So you can still get there. It's just F8 isn't going to do it for you anymore. I don't know if that's going to come back in 10. I honestly don't know. So we'll see how that goes, okay? Anyway, so take some time as you can and, you know, go over to the charms and get to the settings and sort of browse through those to see what's there. If you want, check this out. I'm going to point at the lower left so my start button appears. I can do that in the tile environment or on the desktop, doesn't matter. Right-click the start button, and you get all these options like power options, and down here a ways, control panel, task manager, lots of things that are very useful for a power user of Windows. So again, all I'm doing is getting to the start button, right-click, I get all these options, and again, the one I'm really sort of leaning on right now is control panel. Okay, I'm going to go to control panel. I know, gosh, we're about to run out of time for sure here. Back at control panel, normally when you look at control panel, like in 7, you would normally see category view. We call this the Fisher-Price view, okay? If you go to category and change it to small icons, you can see all the control panels. And I want you to know there is a speech recognition control panel. You've got it in 7, 8, 8.1, whatever. If you've never played with this, you should go do this. Speech recognition, bring it up. You can set up your microphone, a very simple wizard to use your headset, or if you've got a new enough laptop that it has dual microphones, those are noise canceling, and you can actually use a new laptop with dual mics with no headset, and it works fine. Anyway, set up your microphone, do that first, then take the speech tutorial. The tutorial will take you about 20 minutes. It walks you through how to use speech recognition in 8.1 or 7, whatever you're in. It's very good. As you do the tutorial, Windows learns how you speak so that by the time you're done with the tutorial, you've got about a 95% recognition rate. It's really good. I've been using speech recognition long enough. I've got a 99% plus recognition rate. And I can surf the net, edit documents, whatever I want to do, send email by voice, okay? Anyway, back up at the top is Start Speech Recognition. And once you start it, literally, you can say things like, start Microsoft Word, up it comes. Start dictating your document. A bad word appears, you can say select and whatever the word is. They give you a list of options of replacement words in case it's kind of like a same name kind of thing. or you can speak a different word to go in that spot. So editing is very easy using speech recognition. Anyway, check this out. It's worth the time, no doubt about it, no doubt about it, okay? So there's lots of other things, of course, in Control Panel, and you'll want to look at those too as you go along. Now, I know we're about out of time. I never get through all these slides. It just doesn't happen. But you've seen the main things about the Metro interface. I want to show you two more slides about Windows 10. So bear with me 1 second here while I zip down. And by the way, you're welcome to get a copy of these slides. I hope you will. Windows 10. Can I upload? Oh, they're already sitting at speakwisdom.com. Go to speakwisdom.com, presentations, they're there, okay? Waiting on you. How about that, okay? Anyway, Windows 10 coming out sometime middle of 2015. We don't know an exact date yet. There will be no Windows 9. Jokingly, it may be true that Microsoft really does want to distance itself from Windows 8, so they've skipped 9. They've gone right on to 10. There will be no Windows 9. How about that? Where will it run? If you've got any Windows device, phone, tablet, whatever, we're still not sure about RT devices, but it's going to run on hopefully everything, and you've got a consistent look and feel then across those devices. The main change you're probably going to care about, and it's a little hard to see, but if you can see this picture at the bottom right, they're giving you the option now, and it's the default, at least at the moment, of moving the tiles onto the Start menu. So like in Windows 7, you'll hit Start. You'll get a list of your desktop apps like you normally would in 7, plus little, if you will, sort of thumbnails of the tiles that you can click on right there. And if you want to, you can right-click a tile and change its settings and all that. You know, that charm stuff we saw over on the right, it goes away. So I can just right-click a tile right there and do all the settings for the tile, the whole bit. So they're really cleaning up the interface a lot and making it more 7-like. I think I could take a Windows 7 user and in 15 minutes have them comfortable in Windows 10, really. Where it's now a 3-hour process, really, to do 8.1. So 10 is going to be exciting when we finally have it in our hands. There is even a feature called Continuum in 10 that lets it auto-detect whether or not you're on a touch device or a keyboard and mouse, and it will adjust the size of all the prompts appropriately for a touch device versus a keyboard mouse, you know, to make it easier for touch users. Cool? That's pretty good. Going on a little more. Oops, I went the wrong way. Sorry. There we go. One more slide. Oh, did I not put that on there? Maybe there it is. That's what I wanted. No, I'm just missing the slide I want to show you. Oh, well, that's all right. Anyway, you get the idea. It's going to be much more 7-like. And for those of you who are, again, sort of techie or curious, you can just do a Google search on Windows 10 Preview. Make sure you connect to a Microsoft link, okay, because there could be some bad ones out there too. But you can download a free copy of Windows 10 right now. It is very alpha beta, so likely it will change a good bit by the time we get to release. But you can install it on a machine and go crazy with it. I actually, since, well, I don't know, like the last 2 or 3 months, I've been using Windows 10 as my primary operating system. And if you're in a role where you're going to be supporting desktops, you should start doing that too. You should get on, you know, get the preview of 10, get it installed, start working with it day to day. You can install Office in it or any app. It's really basically, the guts of it is still Windows 8.1, you know, the kernel and so forth. So anything you currently run will run in Windows 10. And so you can install it and play with it and see how it looks and operates and all that. And I think you should do that. I really do. Now, it may be the real world is for education, that for some of us, Windows 10 may not be on our workstations for real for like 5 more years. You know, I mean, I know that. But you know, if you have the opportunity eventually to do 10 versus 8.1, you'll certainly want to do that, okay? All right, so let me pause here. I know we're like out of time. Questions, something I didn't cover that you're just curious about in 8.1, just real quick, we'll see if we can get a couple questions. Yeah. Okay. Yes. She's saying, look, we got to refresh our laptops this summer. What do I do? Well, are they going to be touch laptops or are they not? Okay. If they're going to be touch devices, then you need to put Windows 8.1 on them. I mean, 10 will probably not be out by then. So you're going to need to put 8.1 on them and do some training. And you know, like I showed you. 10. Will it be confusing to them? I doubt it'll be very confusing because you might do your 8.1 training, like in the summer, and then by Christmas, time, come back around and reinstall them with 10. And again, probably an hour at most of 10 training, and they'll be like, oh yeah, this is like 7, we're good. Off they go. So I think you'll be okay. But if it's going to be a touch device, I'd put 8.1 on it. Yep. What's the life of 7? Yeah. Right, that's why I say, what we're telling school systems is, look, if you're on 7 and you're happy with it, I'd stay on 7. Just sit there and wait for 10 to come out and then do your upgrades to 10. The only exception, again, would be touch devices, in my humble opinion. Yeah, yep. I think that's a smart way to go. If you've done any 8.1 deployments, have you done any yet? 8.1 deployments with, listen, it's a hassle, okay? 8.1 is a hassle to deploy. 7 was easy by comparison. So that's another reason, unless you really are just dying to go to 8.1, I'd sit tight on 7, wait for 10. My opinion, okay? Okay, one more? Okay, we're out of time anyway, so thank you very much, everybody. Hope that was helpful to you. And good luck with 8.1.